Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. Love to see JC in here super early. JC, I don't know if you saw our short from today on our socials, but it was actually a question spurred by you about Oracle back on one of our last streams. So appreciate you. You get your shout out right in the beginning of the short. So pretty cool. Happy 2026 all in the chat. Yes, it is 2026 and the market is off to a good start here. We're seeing quite the green day so far for a lot of stocks. Overall, the QQQ is up about 1%, SPY about 0.75%, Dow Jones 1.33%, and Russell up just over 1%. As we get everybody tuning in today, hit that like button if you're excited for today's stream. A full 2026 of Prospero live streams coming up. The first one of 2026 here today, the first of many great streams and great market coverage. So excited to begin a new year. We have a new challenge ahead in the markets, and Prospero will be covering it all for you guys. So exciting to start here. We will check out the QQQ and SPY net option sentiments as we get into the topics right after. Kevin's in the chat saying good morning from Lakeland, Florida. Good morning, Kevin. Happy to have you here today. All right, let's check out SPY and QQQ. They've been all over the map. George was on Schwab recently, and he said the key word for 2026 is volatility. So we are expecting some big swings in the markets, and we are seeing our signals today at 19 at the moment for QQQ and 0 all the way at the bottom for the SPY. So SPY is beginning that dreaded 0 flat line again. It's been pinned at 0 since about December 31st. So SPY has yet to be off 0 in 2026. We need to see that happen soon. I see Nick is here. What's up, Nick? Good morning to you. Let's check. We already checked out that. Okay. So we are good to begin on the topics. Let me just also check out the VIX too. Let's set the bar here for 2026. The VIX is just below 15 right now, so pretty low levels for the VIX. So although there's a lot going on in the world and the markets, the VIX is not showing any really signs of trouble or volatility. Nick said 19 is up from the morning. I think it started around 11. There we go. Well, we're seeing the market perform pretty well so far today against all odds. And a lot of the stocks we were covering that had been hit a lot, the quantum, nuclear, and all of these high growth areas, some of them are reacting hugely today. I think I saw SMR, a nuclear stock, is up really big. Let's check in on SMR. Yeah, up 16% today. And there's a lot of big movers. So a lot of the smaller companies are definitely making big moves. And look at this YouTube name, Dividend Degenerates. What's up? Good morning to you. That's the first time I've seen you in the chat. I love the name. That's funny. Johnny's here saying good morning, all. Good morning. If it's your first time to the streams, welcome. I am Steven. George, the CEO of Prospero, is going to join me in just a couple of minutes here, and we'll get into all of these topics in detail, but I'll take you through the list of what we have today. So we're going to give a brief overview of the USA-Venezuela situation, more so covering the oil market impacts of it. We're not going to get too nitty-gritty on it all, but it's a big story for the markets. I'm a little surprised the markets aren't reacting to this more, but I did see Oxy is 99 right now in net social sentiment in Prospero. So I think the oil markets are probably the number one area of the market that's going to feel impacts from this. So we'll cover that briefly. Then, if you guys are investing newsletter subscribers for Prospero, you saw our newsletter from yesterday. I mentioned the overnight repo. If you're not a newsletter subscriber, what are you doing? You got to subscribe to the newsletter. It's a great weekly breakdown of what's going on in the market. But we will cover one bit of it here, which was the overnight repo levels going vertical, which is usually a sign of stress. I feel like a lot of people have heard this term before of overnight repos, but some people may not know exactly what it even means or the dynamics of it. So we'll get a little more into detail on it. Johnny is commenting one of the Prospero stock of the year picks in the chat, ASTS. Also up today. Let's check in live on ASTS. So George has picked ASTS and LEU as his winners of the year. Let's see what ASTS is doing. ASTS up 7% now on the day, almost at $90 per share again. You can't keep this stock down. JC said overnight repo topic was very eye-opening. Yeah, it was, right? The highest it's been in multiple years. So we will cover that in detail why. It may be a worrying sign for the market if it continues at this rate. I also want to ask George, are we going to be buying into momentum again this year? So 2025 for most of the year was the buy the dip market. Towards the end of it, we got a little bit of weakness. It wasn't as much of a buy the dip, but how is George feeling about 2026? Like when we're seeing these big moves today in the market, is he looking at that momentum as a sign of strength and going to buy into that? Or is it more of a market where you want to be selling into the momentum, the big moves, taking profits? So we'll get his opinion because it's a big switch depending on which way he's feeling about that. And with our QQQ and SPY net option sentiment so low, it's a really difficult thing to, I feel like, read at the moment. So it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts. Nick said LEU is also up 7%. Look at that. That's why you got to follow the Prospero signals, newsletters, live streams. You get all this info. Look at these stocks making huge moves. I mean, there was only one day of like data to base on the 2026 investing letter performance, but we are up over 200% annualized, everybody. So we're off to a good start here at Prospero. I also want to bring up today NVIDIA partner Foxconn reporting 22% revenue growth, which beat expectations. And Foxconn has ties in with NVIDIA, Apple. They even have an OpenAI deal. So they have their hands in a lot of pots, and I feel like them showing some good growth will be a good sign for NVIDIA and a lot of the other AI and tech players. So probably a sign of relief for that to come out. Jill, welcome to the stream today. Yeah, I'm LEU because of you guys, and I'm happy today. There we go, Jill. That's what we love to hear. Congrats on that big move today. Happy you got a position in LEU. For those that don't know, LEU, it is a nuclear play. So if someone's just tuning in for the first time, check it out and check it out in the Prospero signals. I like to do these from time to time, just have a nice topic that's basically set up to make a nice YouTube short because that's how we get a lot of our views. So I am going to propose a ticker for SpaceX, and we'll see if George likes it, thinks it's a good idea. With the momentum that IPO is sure to get, and their mission, their first or main mission to go to a certain planet, what would be a better ticker for them to have? We'll ask George and we'll get his thoughts. The year of robotics, could 2026 be the year of robotics? So there's a small stock that came to the market as a SPAC, and it's been beaten down a lot, and it's got great aspects to its business and is in the right area of the market. It reminds me a lot of Oklo, which I'm sure there's some folks who had never heard of Oklo before we talked about it on the stream. And that was a while ago. And look at what the stock has done since. And it's become a main stock in the market that probably everybody who invests on a daily or weekly basis has heard of this company. So I want to put this one on your guys' radar. Maybe it could be the next Oklo. We shall see. Really, really beaten down stock. So I will ask George his opinion on it. It's so small, it's not even in Prospero yet, but maybe we'll get it in there soon. Michael said Bitfarms was a good call last week. George had a 2x. He sent out over 13%. He had a feeling that the crypto space might have a little bit of a buy the dip or recovery. And yes, let's check in on Bitfarms and Bitcoin. Hey, looks like ASTS crossed the 90 mark. It's now up 8.5% on the day. So since I was talking, it went up even more. So Bitcoin up 1.33% today, about to hit 94,000, making a new high since it's been in this lower range and dipped in the second half of November. So probably if it gets above here, it's going to be a breakout candidate. And Bitfarms up 10% almost today alone, and probably a lot more to go if the crypto space is to have momentum come back into it. So yeah, looks like a good call by George. Let's check out Bitfarm signals in Prospero. See if they've even increased since we added them. So right now, Bitfarms, BITF is the ticker in Prospero. 71 upside, 31 downside, 77 net options, 87 dark pool, 82 net social. So looking pretty good. The stock is ripping though. Wow, yeah. All of these Neo Cloud / Bitcoin miners up very, very much so today. uh, Mara, Riot, Iron, Hut, all of them doing very well. Let's see. One more stock that is a popular retail stock that hasn't done well, even with a lot of these stocks recovering recently in the last couple trading days, is HIMS. It really hasn't gotten any momentum back into it. And it's one of the stocks you see on social media all the time. And it's interesting to me whenever I bring up a stock like that on the streams and George disagrees with the hype that's behind it. And I've seen this time and time again now where that type of stock, although they can have big moves like in a short period of time, usually don't perform that well compared to like the other ones. So it's been interesting because HIMS, it's been up and down and up and down and had great runs over the past year, but total performance wise, not great. And it hasn't recovered really since dipping. There is a story that I want to ask George if this is the reason why, and it's because Novo Nordisk brought the first GLP-1 pill to market. So up until now, it's been in the form of a shot. And I know Hims, one of their major products, is the compounded version of the weight loss. So maybe people are getting very nervous that people are going to be turning away from Hims and going back to Novo now that they have a pill for these types of drugs. So we'll ask George if he thinks Hims can recover, if he's beginning to like it more, or if it's still not on his list at all. And then last but not least today, before we get into the model portfolio update at the very end of the stream, we are going to go over the SPY versus QQQ versus Dow versus Russell. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream. We'll discuss which index is number one and which is number four, and how George is thinking about the overall performance of them throughout the year, which is looking best and which is looking worse. George, you got to be a happy guy. ASTS is up about 8.5% right now. The chat has been already mentioning how they're thankful for your Bitfarms call, LEU, ASTS. It's a good day to be a Prospero stream viewer, newsletter subscriber, all of the above.
Yeah, some people were getting a little angry at us towards the end of last year. I mean, it wasn't our best stretch, but you got, especially with these growth names, you got to stick with them. You're gonna have your drawdowns, and yeah, I mean, it says we always talk about like how these things ebb and flow, and like some of the people had me wondering with some of their questions about Bitfarm. I was like, maybe I'm about to miss another one, but no, I stuck with it. I didn't. I liked where it was. I liked the idea that things would turn around. I liked the idea that if things turned around, that would be one of the bigger winners because of like how hard it got hit. It looked like I was right about each of those things.
Mm-hmm. So it's a really interesting day in the market so far, I feel like, because there was a lot of headlines over the weekend, which we'll get into a little bit. The markets are doing pretty well today, and a lot of these high growth stocks are doing very well. We have already mentioned a few of them. Prospero signals for QQQ right now, net option sentiment at 20, and Nick said it was at 11 this morning, so rising today so far. SPY is still at 0, and it's been 0 for the whole year so far, flatlined at 0 for all of 2026 in its brief history. But so the QQQ SPY, a little bit cautionary, you'd say. The market in the green today. The VIX is not looking concerned at all. It's below 15 now. Is it a tough market to read, or do you feel like you have a good pulse on the market at the moment? So your overall thoughts on the current state of things as we're just kicking off 2026 with everything that's going on.
I think you'd have to be crazy to think that you had a good pulse on this market. I think there's going to be more. We haven't seen the last of the volatility. I mean, I think we'll talk about Venezuela in a second, but that's actually a pretty interesting wrinkle, I think, on this whole thing. But no, I mean, I think you could see even last week, QQQ net option sentiment looked better. I mean, SPY, that was the best we've seen it look in a long time. It's back down to 0, I think, because I think people are hedging around this situation. I think Venezuela adds more volatility possibilities, obviously. But no, I mean, that's why we're still, we thought about changing things. I might change the portfolio around a bit at the end of this. But, we're still, very bull day for some of our, big stocks, but we're still sitting at 5 longs and 4 shorts, just because, we think that that's the smart way to do it for now, just because of all the volatility.
Yeah, so the weekend news, when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, is this like a major problem for the market? So actually on the weekend, I feel like the way to check that, I don't know how you feel, but I looked at Bitcoin. I was like, oh, if it's down like 10%, that's a pretty clear sign that risk off is going to be happening and all this type of stuff. But it
Well, for
wasn't.
that kind of thing, it's a little tougher because sometimes people will they view Bitcoin as like an alternative. It has been responding more typically like a growth asset. I do think so, but you got to be careful with oversampling on that too.
Okay, interesting. So, but also the question I got from my cousin was like, should I be buying oil stocks? And I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know how you feel about this situation, like impacts the market going forward, the different sectors. Oxy, the Buffett stock, does have a 99 net social sentiment in Prospero right now. So if now wasn't the time for oil stocks, I don't know ever when it ever would be. But how are you feeling about like the overall impacts going forward from this, but also the oil industry specifically?
I mean, it's not doing very well today, but Oxy. But I don't. What's very hard about these kinds of things is it kind of goes back to how we talk about like China stocks sometimes, where it's just like, yeah, certain oil stocks could benefit overall, but the price of oil is going down. The perception is there's more supply, so that as a macro trend doesn't really go that well overall. And then what JC is saying is my other issue, where it's like, yeah, it then becomes a bit of like, it then becomes a little bit like betting on a dominant favorite, where like, yes, Chevron is the odds-on favorite to benefit the most from this. But that means, how much of it is baked in early on in these first couple, like what's going on with Chevron today? Yeah, doing very well. Past its all-time high, right? So like maybe if you miss out, oh no, it's not. It's getting there. Maybe if you miss out on this first run, there's not as much juice in it. But if it turns out that there's other larger beneficiaries, or they don't quite, get the access that people might think, then there's a much bigger loss. So I don't really like to play these kind of events or energy stocks in that way for this reason.
Does this event, although it doesn't seem to be like a black swan type of thing or really so problematic for the market, at least the way it's reacting so far, does this kind of up the risk for further events like this in the future that you have to take more seriously now, with geopolitical risk involving the USA directly now?
I mean, this is viewed as a positive. I mean, people are reacting to this, not like a war. People are reacting to this like an acquisition, and that's kind of what it is right now.
Yeah,
like a territory acquisition for our economy. And actually, like I saw a lot of kind of just like, quite frankly, like dumb, justifications about it being about like, narco terrorism, and it's just like, well, Trump just pardoned like the Guatemalan guy, like very recently. It was a narco, and then like, okay, if it was really about narco terrorism, we would be invading Mexico, right? Nothing compares our drug problem to Mexico. So it doesn't really make sense. The truth is, if you're talking about strategically as a country, what can help us compete against, say, China long term, acquiring a territory like Venezuela is very helpful for that. So people should just say that. That's the reason that we're doing it, right? Now, the only question is like, do you feel that the economic benefits to the country and maybe stability and long-term prosperity of a country, do you believe that that's worth sacrificing the freedoms of others for? Really, that's all that this comes down to. And I hear people debating about other things, but no, it really comes down to, for me, like, I would like to have economic prosperity, not at the expense of other people's freedoms. That's just me personally. People could think differently, but it's like when I see these conversations and, you know, people talking about like, oh, we were playing capture the flag. It was like this. Well, it's just like, well, let's see how it goes after. Like, you know, oh, and people in Venezuela are celebrating in the streets. There was a lot of people celebrating in the streets when we captured Saddam as well. It looked very similar. So the real costs of this are not known yet. But if we are controlling oil and profiting from that, the economics of the benefits of this country are likely to be greater than the costs. But some of those costs will be, even though we're getting economics, it might put American soldiers' lives at risk as well that wouldn't be at risk otherwise. And then, yeah, I mean, you know, I know it's kind of hard to put yourself in these shoes, but think about, like, you know, imagine you're a Trump supporter and you know, you're a big fan of his, and then, you know, China comes and captures him and says, you violated this, like, you know, you violated this, like, the sovereignty of this other country. We view that as an international crime, so we're removing you. And our military is going in and going to control your country in the meantime because, you know, your leader violated these rules, right? I don't think people here would be very happy about that. So, you know, you try to put people in other people's shoes.
Yeah, it's a super thorny topic, and I think it's been a good chat so far about it. JC commented, which I think is the last like interesting point of this. It kind of opens the door for China to have an excuse for Taiwan, right? Like, if we're doing this, how could we reprimand them when they try to get Taiwan? It's like it makes it a little bit more difficult, I feel like.
I do think that this makes them a lot more likely to take Taiwan.
And that would be a much more impactful thing for the markets, right? With all the chip Taiwan semi.
Maybe not. It's impactful because of people are expecting a conflict with the US over it. But to your point, it becomes a lot more, you know, it becomes a lot tougher. I did see, the other interesting thing is I did see, I think it was Rubio was asked for something else. The topic of Cuba came up, and he didn't really say they wouldn't also take Cuba, which is, you know, maybe we're about to go through like round 2 of like the great imperialist. People are going to start just grabbing countries again. I shouldn't laugh about that. It's actually,
I know it's a nervous smile I'm having right now.
I know, I know, but it's like that could happen, right? Because it's similar, like, and it could be the AI age, right? Because basically, you know, a lot of that imperialism happened because Western powers were way more technologically advanced than these other countries, and they could just basically waltz in and just be like, tough shit, your country's ours now, right? That might be AI again, right? If you're not sacrificing, you know, human soldiers, right? I don't think, like, you know, I don't think we would ever invade Canada and have like a like troop and Air Force, you know, whatever battle with Canada, right? But if we're marching in with, you know, robots, I think that's something that not that I really want us to consider it, but I think that's something we would more strongly consider if we could just like take Canada with a robot army.
Well, if any of this comes true, if you thought the world was crazy, it's about to get a lot more crazy, it sounds like. Maybe very soon. Mario is in agreement with you. Nobody to say no. kind of what you were saying with the power dynamics of AI.
Yeah, I don't think that's not on the minds of some of these leaders, that if they get their AI technology quick enough, that they have the superiority that they won't see what we couldn't take. Which, by the way, is why it's understandable that we're moving so fast on our end too, because that China example, I don't think I think if it wasn't I think China would take us over in a second if they thought it could be like a clean AI victory that we couldn't oppose. I mean, we were just talking about human nature at this point.
Yeah, very true. I think we covered this in good detail, so we'll move on from there. But I want to circle back to the newsletter, because there was a pretty interesting chart shared in it and discussion about the overnight repo rates and how they're going up, and they're now hitting the highest levels since March of 2020. And I feel like people have heard this term before, but maybe it's a little hard to understand or haven't heard it in detail or what it actually means. So what are overnight repos, and why is the level of it going up a bad thing or a worrying sign for the market?
Well, repos are just like a reliable short-term between institutions like cash flow mechanism. And even slightly elevated levels could be seen as normal. But I think what we saw pretty definitively now was, again, I think we saw net option sentiment fall. I think with the repo rates, I think we saw people concerned probably about it escalating further than it did, knowing what was going to happen, maybe other countries stepping in to defend Venezuela. I will say that about this, planning it so it was executed and succeeded very quickly was probably a very important. I think you have to commend the plan for that, at least. Whether or not I agree with it is different than it was a very well executed plan, right? And I think that's probably what we were seeing in those repo rates. People concerning about when you would take those short-term loans, is you just want extra liquidity, right? And if you're just if you're forecasting on Monday and being like, this conflict could escalate, let me get this liquidity before it becomes more expensive or sparse, or anything like that. And that even begs the question, right? Last week we were also seeing liquidity injection into the markets early on. We were reporting on that. Maybe some of that was stabilizing the markets as much as possible before this was going to happen. I think it said it was being planned for months. I mean, you'd have to plan something like that for a while. But yeah, I think that's especially how it's going today. I think you have to read, anytime something like a major geopolitical event like this happens, you don't know how it's going to go, how the dominoes are going to fall. It went about as well as anything like this can possibly go. Happened, overnight, 0 American casualties. What appears to be a peaceful transfer of power for now. You have to say, the flip side to that is you have to see how it stabilized a little bit. I don't know how many everyday, Venezuelan revolutionaries are going to try to attack the Delta Force. But maybe they'll see other opportunities as it comes along. But yeah, I definitely think this is being read as a positive economic outcome for the U.S. And there was obviously a lot of hedging going into it. And there's hedging going now in SPY. And I think that that's the smart thing to do, right? we don't know, like, knock on wood, we don't know if something, is going to happen as retribution. There, we don't know if something's going to happen. We hope that nothing happens here, but like these are the kinds of risks. I'm a student of history. You look at, Ireland and the UK, for example, right? Even though the UK always had control, they were punished for that control, in their home base. And that's not out of the realm of the possibility. And that's what always, it's not just a moral thing for me. That's the kind of thing that I worry about, that it comes home when you mess with people's sovereignty.
So it sounds like the overnight repos are almost like a VIX for the banking system. Like it's like a stress test and how much stress is in the system.
No, because it could just be like personal. Like there could just be like a balance sheet item, something where like they could be taking big things. It could be at the end of the month. Like when it gets super elevated, that is definitely viewed as like another something else, like the VIX. But it also like other people understand what's happening in the repo markets. So sometimes it's just like it's like a fear escalation, and people are like, okay, let me grab as much liquidity as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting. You said the end of the month too. It was just the end of the month, so maybe we will see these levels drop down now that the situation is behind us, and also the month and year changeover. But also another interesting thing I wanted to follow up on that you said. Oh man, I'm forgetting it now. What did you say? Um, I'm forgetting it. Maybe it'll come back to me about the VIX. I had one more follow up. Oh well. If anybody, by the way, we haven't had so many questions in the chat so far. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns about any topics that we discuss or we don't discuss, you just want to be brought up, feel free to comment them. But I will move on unless I can remember my point.
I know, like the end of the year, we were getting like a million questions. I guess everybody's got like a little New Year's hangover here.
So a question I have for you is: do the people watching the stream, investors in the market, should they be buying into momentum? So for a lot of last year, it was the buy the dip market, and it seemed like the more momentum a stock had, you kind of weren't fearful that it would pull back. It was buying into that momentum because it was showing strength. Is that still the case in this market right now, or with the concerns and the level of volatility? You were on Schwab, you mentioned volatility that we expect. Should you be selling those rips if you're in a stock that has one? How do you feel about that right now?
Yeah, I mean, or putting on stop losses. Like it depends on what your strategy is. I mean, I think it's pretty risky to be buying into momentum. Like how I would see it is like, however much as we said in the letter, however much you're like short a reverse ETF or like owning an inverse ETF or the amount of stocks that you're short. I think that should be adjusted based on risk and things like QQQ, SPY, and net option sentiment. But no, like buying into momentum is a good way to lose your gains, right? So I think you gotta get what you get when you feel that there's good opportunities, and wait for the next dip, and or hedge.
So do you think this year could be like an overall chop year where there's like rallies and drops, but overall not so much movement in overall levels, in not just the indexes, but even individual stocks?
I mean, I think a lot depends on, like we keep saying, on things we don't know, like how long until there's a big rate cut, and like other geopolitical things like this, or any tensions around the midterms. But I think there's just too many unknowns, but I'm definitely expecting a lot of volatility.
Mm-hmm. And we are seeing that so far in the market just 2 days in. I did see we're off to quite a good start in the not the in the investing portfolio. I was at 288% on an annualized basis right off the gate. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers get very skewed when you don't have
Yeah.
many days, but no, it's we're doing a lot better than that after today.
hmm
I
Tim,
have to change
was gonna say,
775%.
oh my God.
I mean, we like, well, we're not gonna get like we lost a big lead last year. I think we were like it. I think we were doing we finished like 20% above, and I think with like 3 months left, we were like still like 60 or 70. So you never be too confident.
hmm Well, I think you learn the most from the times of trouble. So is there anything you can learn from that we can share with our viewers about, like, if you reflect on it, like any changes you could have made? Sometimes I feel like, the market is just not on your timeline. So some of the stocks you were in, they're performing very well to start the year. Maybe it just didn't overlap with the end of 2025, or could you have made some changes?
No, I think it was really like at times I let the portfolio get too big, which exposes me to big swings, especially if I'm loading up on a certain kind of risk, which happened to me like a few times at the end of the year. And actually, it was like sometimes it was just like overcorrecting to the other side. But yeah, keeping things smaller to not expose yourself to as big swings is like definitely something that I need to do this year.
Well, Tim commented about the robotic stock I want to bring up, so we'll jump right to that topic. Uh, Ticker ARBE, so ARB Robotics. I'm wondering if this company can be this year's Oklo, George, because there's some similarities with it. So I think people who probably watch our streams might have been introduced to Oklo on the stream, which is pretty cool because it became such a big like narrative in the market, and it was probably the leader of the nuclear space, you could say. This ARB Robotics company was also a SPAC, or came public as a SPAC. It's been beaten down tremendously. So down, it's only trading at about $1.32 per share right now. Small market cap, and the robotics sector is becoming so highlighted recently. I feel like people have such high expectations. Um, and it seems like this is maybe the next level of AI. We've been talking about it on streams recently, like the physical aspects of AI, implementations like that. So what ARB does is they develop radar and operating systems for drones, cars, and robotics. So they have a little bit of that like self-driving AI type of stuff, but even for more than just cars. So letting AI operate in the real world. How do you feel about that company? I know you're just hearing about it now, but that type of setup, do you think this company has the potential to go on a run like Oklo, be the next Oklo?
What's the ticker?
ARBE.
Doing well today. Leading radars. Interesting. They got a Chinese subsidiary too. Oh yeah, it peaked very nicely, and then I mean, I'll read more. I mean, it's in a good space. With these, it's very hard to tell, and the main thing that you have to figure out is like, and this is like a good like value investing lesson. You got to figure out like the difference between something that sounds cool and will work, and like something like this will work, right? Or get big. This is really needed. But the question is, are they going to be the ones to do it? What makes them special? What are the chances? And that is this interesting. Yeah, they're showcasing it with NVIDIA. Yeah, this is kind of like a bullshit headline. I mean, who wouldn't use NVIDIA chips with your thing? LiDAR like outside of interesting. Yeah, this definitely looks interesting. I mean, it's a LiDAR substitute, and LiDAR is like, that's all that like weighty equipment. So this actually sounds like this actually sounds like the kinds of technology that Tesla has to replace LiDAR perhaps for other cars. So that's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
So we'll have to keep our watch on it. But even overall, the robotic space, you're feeling pretty good about as being maybe a leader in terms of like stocks that can make big moves over the coming years, right?
Definitely. I mean, I think robotics is one of the best growth.
Mm-hmm. We are getting a question from Jordan Peterson in the chat. Welcome, Jordan. Curious to hear your outlook on Microsoft.
Let's see what it looks like in the signals. I mean, I'm a little worried. I'm still getting. I had the flu last week. I don't know if anybody could hear.
I've been sick for like 5 days. Not the flu, thank God.
Yeah, I got the flu on New Year's Eve at like 10 p.m. I was like going downhill and I had to get home. And I've been sick since like today's like, I mean, lucky for me, at least the first like work day of the year, I'm good, but like good-ish. But yeah, I'm still getting over it. So Microsoft has a 65 net option sentiment right now. Don't love that. I mean, generally, it's kind of interesting, right? You look at the way they're putting some of like AI into things like Copilot, and that's very promising. I think a great use. So that like they're AI enhance, and like I've never really liked Azure, but it's like okay, it's a cloud play, right? Anyone with a cloud play, like I always say, if you want to own something for the next 10 years, make it Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. Because cloud is like the only thing that I could be like, I know is going to be around. But I don't love what's going on with OpenAI right now versus Google. I think that's some of the apprehension in the price. I think a lot of people were like, when there was a lot of excitement around Microsoft, I think that was around the assumption that OpenAI would be the leader in AI going forward. And, I think probably by a decent margin. Now that's a lot more in question. And I think that's a real drag on Microsoft stock. Because if you take that out, like what's OpenAI? What is the really exciting upside in Microsoft, right? And that's not to say like I could say the same thing about Google, right? If you took that out, what's the exciting upside? And he's like YouTube, maybe, but like that's not enough to like carry the business. And even after that, I'm kind of like end of list.
Waymo,
right? AI. You take out AI, like I would put that in the AI category. But yeah, good point. Google is making like a lot of AI plays. But yeah, that's why like I think Microsoft needs a catalyst. And granted, you could look at it this way. If you believe OpenAI is going to become the perceived long-term leader again, this is a great price to buy Microsoft at. I just I'm not that confident in that myself.
Yeah, I don't feel like that relationship has really blossomed the way investors or anybody really hoped it would. Tim is taking us back to the robotic space. He's asking about RR is the ticker. I don't know how much about it, but on Reddit, there's a lot of social action, and NVIDIA let them use a robot at a convention. Prospero signals are looking scary. Short term is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like net option sentiment was out in front of this game on that. Yeah, that's a nice lead up. I'm interested. Yeah, they've got a lot of room to go back up. Like these growth stocks really got wow. So I wonder how we get this up on screen. because this is interesting. So, I got to send it to myself first.
So a little bit about Rich Tech Robotics. Firm designs, manufactures, and sells robots to restaurants, hotels, and senior living centers, casinos, factories, and movie theaters. So they're really into like the entertainment space use cases of entertainment and hospitality of AI.
Yeah, how so one thing I look at actually when I'm doing the newsletter, I don't talk about this that much, but because it's more of like a tiebreaker. I think I've talked about it like a few times. But one thing I always look at are these institutional ownership charts. Yeah, that's probably a good. Whoa. How do I just go down? No, leave me alone. Oh, maybe this. Yeah, okay. So this means that in the last, in the September update, I mean, that's different. We're going to get a December update in the not too distant future. But this is abnormally high to have like close to 93% of the institutional transactions be buys. I don't think I've ever seen a number like that. So, yeah, this is intriguing. Might be something to add.
I have a feeling the robotics space and stocks are going to become more discussed about on the streams throughout the year. The same way in the past year, nuclear and quantum and all of these different areas of the market popped up.
Without a doubt.
I also think the space industry is going to continue to being a topic that we discuss, which we have been. And I have a follow-up for you, George, on the SpaceX IPO. I want to hear your thoughts on my idea for their ticker. I don't know if this has been going around the social media world or not. I really haven't seen it anywhere else. But I feel like with all the momentum that stock is going to get, the perfect ticker for SpaceX would be Mars, as in their first launch, their main mission, the driving force of their company, and the fact of like how viral I could see that going if like that is the ticker for this company. It has nothing to do with the actual company name, but what do you think of that idea? Do you think Elon Musk is the type of guy who would consider that type of branding and use the ticker Mars? It is available. I did double check.
Weren't you pitching me something else a few weeks ago? Why are you so obsessed with this ticker?
Mars or SpaceX?
Oh.
SpaceX, I'm obsessed with because I feel like they get a lot of views when we post about them. So that's why I try to bring them up as much as possible.
Wait, no, but what's this other one? Isn't this SpaceX?
I'm suggesting that the SpaceX IPO, when it goes public, that they use the ticker Mars.
No, I'm saying that you pitched me a different like SpaceX ticker a few weeks ago. I think I remember.
Oh, I think maybe, I don't know. We've covered about SATS.
No, never mind. We did do this. It's fine. But yeah, I think that's a good one. Or like, I wonder if he'll just make it like Elon or something. Like just like at this point, just like lean all the way in.
Mm-hmm. Fully.
I think Mars is okay though.
Could you ever see any kind of like combination of all of his businesses into one like super stock or super company?
I mean, there's no doubt they'll make something like an ETF or something like I'm surprised there isn't. Maybe there's just not enough. But like, yeah, like they'll definitely make like a levered Tesla, SpaceX, like that'll be around. But no, I mean, that's the thing. There's still boards of these companies, and the boards would never. The Tesla board would never approve, like essentially like a stock merger with SpaceX.
Now that is a fascinating idea I've never thought about before. An Elon ETF where you had like Neuralink, Boring, SpaceX, Tesla, all these different companies. and it'd be like Kathy Wood's ARK. I feel like it's like the growthiest stuff he's working on. So it'd be like high risk, high reward type of ETF.
Yeah, I mean, he could put his shares. He could put his shares in like some kind of holding and create a stock that was derived from it. Actually, he could just do that himself and get fees. That's actually not a bad idea for him. He could collect ETF fees on essentially people owning just like the raw collateral of his shared. It's a pretty good idea for him, Steven.
There we go, Elon. You could give us a little, 0.01% for that idea. We'll take it. I want to bring up NVIDIA today. I feel like we haven't covered them much recently. Actually, I want to check them out too, see how they're doing. They've been kind of treading sideways for a bit now. We are coming up on earnings season. It's going to be here before we know it too. I think the end of January, it starts to kind of kick off again. NVIDIA is up almost 1% today. It has sold off from its morning highs of being up over 2%, but trading at $190 per share right now. So kind of right in the middle of the range they've been at, between 168 and about 207 in the past couple of months. There was Foxconn came out and reported 22% revenue growth, and they are partners with NVIDIA, Apple. They even have a OpenAI collaboration that's going to be coming out, where OpenAI is going to develop hardware soon. So the fact that Foxconn, which touches all of these different companies that are, the major players of the AI and tech space, reported good earnings and actually beat expectations at 22%. Does that give you a little bit more confidence for this upcoming earnings season of NVIDIA and the other major players, Apple and the like, just the mega cap tech stocks?
When does NVIDIA report?
I don't know about NVIDIA. I feel like
late. I would imagine they report like.
Yeah, they're one of the later reporters of. They're February 25th.
Yeah. Oh, and the rest. I mean, I guess the rest of them are coming a lot sooner. Man, it always feels like I'm gonna have more time before earnings starts again.
Yeah, well, the holidays is also like a time vacuum. I feel like it's just like 2 weeks, like boop, gone. Yeah, so Apple is like the end of the month, January 29th. So,
yeah. Here we go again. Yeah, I mean, I have a good look. I think we have every reason to have faith in earnings, right? Earnings growth has been there. The question is, how are people going to react? How are people going to look at the value? And I think that goes back to what we were talking about before. It really, like a lot of these Fed factors, geopolitical factors, that's going to impact the markets a lot more, because at this point, we kind of expect earnings to beat, right? And I think earnings will beat. So it's kind of like, what's going to be the surprise? Either like these headlines are going to move things, because that's going to be the surprise, or it's going to be maybe them not beating, right? Or some, like we said, Oracle, Broadcom, we've talked about some of these things, maybe not, Broadcom was, kind of a margin disappointment. Things are going to be more sensitive on that front, but I don't expect NVIDIA to disappoint. Like, that's kind of a crazy thing to expect.
Yeah, it is interesting that like none of the concern is actually with like the companies themselves. It's all with like the surrounding factors of like the macro and environment and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
Is that different from different times in the stock market history of like the wall of worries? Like, is this an abnormal time? Usually people worried more about like the companies specifically, or is this kind of always how it goes?
No, I mean, earnings. I mean, part of it is just because what I'm saying, that we're getting so many beats and the beats are going up. Earnings used to be a bigger deal when it was something that could, more go either way. But it's gotten to be so much more of a bullish thing that I think these other stories that are more like, because the market moves a lot on a big surprise. And you're only going to get these surprises, like the probability of getting more surprises that move, or like the closer it is to like a 50-50 split, right? And a lot of these things are not a 50-50 split, but like more of these macro things or like events that are like could be bullish or could be bearish. You could view as like, you know, random events that you can't predict. You know, that's what we're really seeing moving the market a lot. And that was always the case. But I would say earnings were in addition to the random events, they could move more.
Question from Mario in the chat. Do you feel that Optimus and FSD for Tesla can really produce the income streams to justify the current valuation?
No, but I don't think that's the important question, Mario, right? Because it'll be like, what's the next thing? Right? I don't think if you're asking about like classic valuation analysis, which it sounds like you are, I do not think Tesla will ever trade. I like maybe post Elon Musk, like when it's a very, very mature company, and maybe perhaps less on hype, and you know, and robots and self-driving cars are all like mature, large industries. But until then, it is going to trade at some hype multiple.
Post Elon Musk, I feel like he's going to be like a Buffett. By the way, Buffett's officially out from Berkshire as CEO, so losing the legend there. But I imagine Elon's going to be there for a while, so that would be a shock, I feel like, for that stock if Elon's gone anytime soon. I wanted to ask you about a popular social media stock today, Hims. We've talked about it before on the streams. I did mention before you got in here when I was going over the topics with the chat, I find it interesting when I bring up social media, like momentum hype stocks on the streams, and you either like support them or don't with the Prospero signals and how they've performed now that we've had this history of streaming. And Hims is one of the ones that you kind of never really love too much. And it's, although it's had big runs, it hasn't done great in the past year, and it hasn't done well recently. It is up now 5% on today, so starting to get a little bit of momentum just today from the lows it's been at. I'm wondering, do you think the news of Novo Nordisk launching the first ever GLP-1 pill in the USA is affecting Hims, and maybe this is why it's been so weak over the past year? I imagine people will adopt the pill much more quickly than a shot, and I think Hims, a big part of their business was these compounded weight loss drugs that were kind of a workaround of the Novo Nordisk original Ozempic and Wegovy and all that. So how do you feel about Hims at this point? And do you think the fact that a pill is now on the market could be the crushing blow for like why their stock hasn't performed?
Well, first, those pills haven't been shown to have the same efficacy. So it might be a little while away. I do think the news is potentially not helpful. But I also think it's just kind of like what we were just talking about with Tesla, right? When these companies, except it's not Tesla, because like Hims doesn't have like some robot that it could sell people on now, right? Like I think when you're selling people on this like crazy growth, it's not even just a question of like, yeah, like maybe one thing, another thing's going to make it come down to earth a little bit. But no, it's actually just much more about at a certain point, people are like looking at it and be like, okay, like we are valuing this at a huge growth multiple. Like, where is that coming from? And then when you add to that, where it's just like, oh, I see some things on the horizon that might actually make it decline, that's when it gets even more scary. But like, yeah, that's the problem with these like social hype companies. Like, you know, I think Celsius is another really good example of that, right? Where it gets to a certain point where it like reaches this crescendo, and then its value is so high, and then like it just like the bottom falls out because everybody starts to be like, wait, like this multiple is crazy. Like this was pure momentum. It's kind of like wake up.
It makes me like these experiences now of seeing Celsius, like you said, in Hims. It's like if the main driver for a stock is like the hive mind, like marketing of it, that's a clear signal that it's a stock that's going to pull back because that can't sustain it for forever. Just like the buzz about it, like it needs to actually have something exciting about the business, or like some other thing, more fundamental reason than just like a lot of social media attention and energy. I think that's a clear sign when you see that, and there's not much more that could pull back, underperform. We have one more topic for you quickly. Everybody, if you've enjoyed the stream so far, hit that like button. Great stream so far. Get any of your last questions in before we do the switch over. I just want to ask you, George, also on the stream today, how are you feeling about the SPY, QQQ, Dow, Russell, the four major indices? Which is your favorite for this year? Which is your least favorite for this year? I feel like the Russell has been a continual lagger. Maybe do you think small cap stocks could make any kind of run or comeback this year or not?
I like the QQQ the best, right? And we've talked about this before. Like, if there aren't too many major macro or geopolitical concerns, I think it's going to be a banner year for the QQQ. Now, if it's not, you kind of have to get out of the way because it's going to swing the other way. And like, I feel similar to like small caps, but I don't like small caps as a group. Like, I think certain small caps are going to, like, if you pick the right ones, they could even have an amazing year regardless. Like, that's why we look at LAU and, you know, ASCS is not really a small cap, but there are smaller cap stocks that I think can do well even in some bearish scenarios. But I don't like small caps as a whole. I don't think I'm ever going to like small caps as a whole. Again. And then, you know, Dow, SPY, you know, don't really care.
Yawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like for the Russell, you just have to be like hyper, like stock specific, like, yeah, because there's going to be a lot of winner and losers at that bunch. But no questions here so far, so we can do our switch over and we could catch you on the other side for the model portfolio. Everybody, stick with me. George will be right back with us, and we'll do a live update to the model portfolio. George, we just lost him. All right, JC, I'll ask him your question right when he comes back. The last I heard about the trade alerts was that they were going to be sometime in the new year. So I imagine they'll be relatively soon, but I don't have an exact date for you. But I'll ask George when he gets back in here for you. Let's take a look again at the QQQ and SPY net options sentiments as we've gone throughout the stream. We'll see if there's been any movement. Not really much from what I see. QQQ at 18 right now, SPY at 0. So I think the highest we saw today was 20 for QQQ, and SPY has not moved at all so far. Check out the indices. Looks like everything is trending higher so far today still. So the Russell is the outperformer on the day, up close to 1.75%. Actually, the Dow is number 2. So Russell and Dow leading the way. Dow up 1.5%, QQQ in 3, Dow up just over 1%, and SPY approaching up 1% on the day. So we're seeing a very bullish green day in the market. Wonder if any of the Mag 7 stocks are in the red or if we are perfect 7 for 7. Interesting. Apple is in the red right now. So everything else is in the green. Apple in the red. Apple down 1%. Apple down 3% year to date. But every other Mag 7 stock is in the green here so far. Let me type up our banner for if anybody's just popping in at this point, that they know we're about to do the model portfolio live. By the way, guys, if you're watching on Twitter, head over to our YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Also in the YouTube chat, there are shared links for the newsletter, investing and trading newsletters. There's also in our description different links for all of our socials, our website. So everything kind of, it's the hub of all things Prospero. So head on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We are chasing down, let's see where we're at right now. I think 3,400. Yeah, 3,400 is the next level to hit. So help us hit that. Maybe we could get there in January, and maybe just maybe 5,000 by the end of the year. That would be a great year of growth for the YouTube channel. But appreciate everybody tuning into the stream so far. I hope you had fun and learned a lot. Great topics covered so far. What we do now for the new folks, model portfolio update. George is going to make live moves, ads, drops. So you get to see how the sausage is made on a portfolio that has outperformed the market for, I believe, 4 straight years now. So a good history of outperformance. Let's take a look at Bitcoin also. See how crypto is moving. We'll look at ASTS and LEU too. I got to remember those tickers too, the robotics tickers. What was the one we covered? RR? Yeah, RR. I got to add this to the watch list so I can check on it. Bitcoin is up just over 1%, currently giving back, pulling down from the highest of the day. It was up over 1.5%. Checking on ASTS. ASTS up. Ooh, so things are starting to give back a little bit now. ASTS was up as much as 8%, now up under 4% on the day. So a little bit of a give back there. LEU. LEU is up 5% at the moment. It does look like some things were kind of giving back gains in the recent moments of the day. All right, let me get RR. RR and ARBE. If anybody has more robotics tickers you want me to watch, comment them in the chat. I'll add them and we'll keep an eye on them as these stories develop in the robotics space throughout the next couple months. Are you guys ready for earnings season too? Earnings season right around the corner. It's probably going to kick off probably 2 weeks from now. A few companies will begin reporting, and then 3 and 4 weeks will be in the real swing of things. George was right. It feels like it just happened, but yeah, we're about to get back into it. JC commented some big banks next week. Let's see. Who's going to report next week? Yeah, the banks always do start us off, right? With those, oh my gosh, the banks are soaring. Wow. JP Morgan, all-time high, within 10% of $1 trillion. I think I saw Citibank was doing really well too. Citibank 5-year high. Yeah, the banks are moving and grooving recently. They've been an underappreciated sector probably. JP Morgan 113, so next Tuesday. Bank of America. Bank of America all-time high? Believe so. They report 9 days from now, so next Thursday probably. Goldman Sachs all-time highs. Wow, banks are really all across the board, really doing well. They report 115 10 days from now.
Oh, update on alerts. Yeah, we're still I think towards the middle of the month. We're still we're trying to get some fields that people wanted in pushed. We're almost done.
We were taking a look at some of the banks really doing good. A lot of them are at all-time highs. Kind of haven't talked about them much, but they're going to be reporting next week, JC mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I expect a good I expect them to do well. Market's doing well and rates are high. That's a formula for good profits for banks, you know.
Mm-hmm. A lot of money printing too. That's got to help them, right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Oh, I have to. I'm making a new. I'm trying to be better about this in the new year. Actually, got to teach you how to do this, Steven. watch it again. I'm making a new screener. Some interesting names here. All right. That's done.
It updated in the app already.
Yep. And I believe I sent out the push.
This seems like a list of like the classics. You have like Reddit, Coin, Hood, like all of the like stocks that have had like the best signals at a time or another are
Wait,
on the
did
list
people
now.
get oh, there it is. Yeah.
Iron. Interesting.
The who's who of our favorite growth names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small caps are moving in the right direction today. We will add bull exposure there.
I think I saw ONDS. We should get that.
Yep, ONDS is there.
Maybe iron too. We'll grab a couple off that.
Consumer discretionary, financials, and energy are the standout bulls. And utilities is the obvious bear.
Okay. Can you look up some of these net option sentiments, Stephen?
Mm-hmm.
I always struggle with how to get this to you. Let's see, what can we do? Maybe if I do it like this, it'll work. No, that doesn't work. Here, send it to you. I send it to you on Discord. Yeah, that'll work, right? Are you on Discord? All right.
Yep.
I feel like this takes. Okay. No, won't let me. Boy, is that annoying. Yeah, see, there's got to be a better way to do this. But whatever. I'll just.
I could just take a photo of the screen and then just go back and forth.
I know. Yeah, just do that.
All right, I'm good.
Taking way too long. I was trying to take a ship photo and share the photo, but. Yeah, I do. How many we have? We have 26 and then 26. Okay. Ooh, I know. It's been a while since we had that name. Damn, upside is at 34? That really went far down.
What is our history with iNod? That reminds me, but like I'm not remembering.
No, it had a couple months where we
Mhm.
when things were better. When things were
Better
better.
times. Simpler times.
Yeah. No, it's not 34. Oh, god damn it. I made a new one. And it's still too late. I'm not going back. Okay. Energy. Yeah, we'll take a couple. Why not? Still be. No, Halliburton. I'm not surprised. Oh, financial services was the other one.
Are you looking for like the lowest NOSs of this bunch of stocks?
No. Why?
Just anything particular? Because a lot of them are low, so I was wondering if like we were looking for low
I
ones.
wouldn't call them particularly low. 86, 82.
Oh no, I'm talking about the stocks I was looking up. Those
So
particular
no, we
stocks.
want the highest ones. These are shorts. What do you have for me, Steven?
All right, I just finished. So you want the ones that look like best shorts right now?
No, worst ones. We're looking what to close.
Oh, okay. So then PRK 57 NOS, Howie 64, SPXC 75.
Wait, no, I only needed these.
Oh my gosh, I did the whole list. Okay. Where does it stop at? BLRX. Okay, then yeah, probably PRK 57 NOS, ASRT 44, U-Haul 23, AWR 30, NEU 14, BLRX 43.
All right, sounds like PRK. Okay. And then I think we're done here. All right, that's done. Okay. Where is QQQ and SPY on options estimate?
QQQ is 16 and SPY is 0.
Keep our eye on that. Okay. I think that is everything.
We do have one question from Charles in the chat asking the difference between investing and trading newsletters. He recently signed up for the investing one thinking it was the trading. Oh no.
Yeah, so I mean, the investing letter is going to be a smaller portfolio, higher conviction, and you basically get two bonus areas. And like the Wednesday letter is going to be most of it is going to be paid. The Sunday letter, you just get like a bonus area where you get some extra screeners, a little extra analysis. The trading letter is, twice as much because it's every day. It's a lot more ideas. And it's going to be kind of like higher churn, more purely signal driven. But both of them, I think, are complementary to each other. But if you are, more of one strategy or the other, that's fine. Or, you could email me and I'll set you up with a trial of the trading letter, and you can take a look at both of them before you decide. How does that sound?
There we go. We'll hook Charles up since he's already an investing letter subscriber. But we are an hour and 30 minutes here. I think that's going to do it for the stream today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, George. A great stream. And we will be back normal times this week. So Wednesday, 3 p.m., everybody. See you all then. Thank you, George. Thank you,
Thank
chat.
you.
Bye, guys. See you soon.